Shulodd, and hello, Zelamals. I am Matthew Carauddo, author and developer of Diamond Dragons, and today, in this video series called Diamond Discussions, we will chat with varying artists, our diamonds in the rough. Today, our diamond in the rough is Raymond Anthony Fernando. So welcome, Anthony, or welcome, Raymond, excuse me.
Thank you, Matthew, for having me on your fantastic program. I'm really impressed with your book, Diamond Dragons. Well, the design is fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, I'm I'm from the Republic of Singapore, which is in Southeast Asia. I am very passionate about mental health issues, and especially now with COVID-19. A lot of people are having depression, suicide. So I've been an advocate for the mentally ill for more than 12 years.
Oh, excellent.
And the reason why I actually became so passionate about it is because I saw how my wife suffered horrifically from this mental disorder called schizophrenia.
Oh, wow.
A lot of misconceptions about schizophrenia. People believe that they have a split personality, when it's actually... So we need to correct all these things. People think they are troublemakers, they kill people, and stuff like so. So we need to correct all these misconceptions. My wife is an angel, she won't even harm. Even when I want to kill a cockroach, she said, no, cannot. These are God's creatures. She will just catch the cockroach in her hand and just throw it out the window. So that's the kind of person she is, you see. So it was through my journey with her, that I learned the power of unconditional love. And many couples today, when you're in a relationship, at the beginning it's all lovey-dovey. Once a person gets a serious illness, and I've always emphasized caregiving should be a noble job. A lot of people don't like to do caregiving because it's 24/7.
Right.
And when you're looking after somebody with schizophrenia or bipolar or whatever, it's a 24/7 job.
Yeah.
And you are walking through a minefield because you never know when the bomb will explode. But through my journey with her, I've learned a lot about how to manage someone with mental illness. And in doing so, I reach out to other people. I reach out to many people who are struggling with this illness. And I think the most important that people need to know is education, public education on mental health issues, right? So otherwise they will believe that these people have no economic value. I coached my wife into becoming an author of 8 books. Can you imagine? She had 5 chronic illnesses, including arthritis. But I coached her, guided her all the way. She's a fantastic cook.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so and even when I wanted to write the book, Loving a Schizophrenic, I think I did mention to you earlier, she was very skeptical. She said, people will... So I took 6 months to write the book, but 1 year to convince her, please let me tell you the story. And she still was adamant because there was a lot of very strong emotions in the book,
of course,
including her miscarriage and her abortion.
She's a
Catholic, converted Catholic, but she's very particular about such things. Then I told her, never mind. I found one angle. I said, let me write the story as if a couple is telling us the story. And so I wrote it from a third person's point of view. But when the book started selling very well and people came to us for help, she said, okay, go ahead, tell the press it's my story.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I love that. That's a wonderful point of detail on your experience with her. That's fantastic. I love it. That's fantastic.
And then she told me, after writing her cookbook, it sold so well. She was so motivated. She said, you told your story about my mental illness from your perspective. I want to do it from my perspective.
I love it.
And then it came out the book. She wrote the book. I guided her along the way. And she wrote a book, Beautiful Memories, Precious Love. And that book sold 1,000 copies.
That's perfect.
This is the book.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, hold it up nice and high for the camera, and then everybody can see that. So, right, it says Loving a Schizophrenic. And again, this one is by Raymond
Yes.
Anthony Fernando. And again, there will be links in the description so you guys can find out more about his
That book is, hard copies are sold out, only about 2 copies left.
Oh, wonderful. That's
But
good news.
I
in a lot of
also
ways.
wrote, this is one of my latest books, huh?
And another one, okay, right? And so he
This
has
is the damn
coronavirus.
coronavirus.
I like it.
Which is, yeah. So I've actually, this is one of my latest books.
Mhm.
It is actually to see how we should tackle these viruses. Huh? To be honest with you, 6 years ago, I'm blessed because I have a somewhat an helicopter mind. Huh? So
Okay.
when I saw the H1N1 that came out, my MERS, I actually wrote in the press. I'm actually very strong advocate for people with mental illness, and I write to the press. So I wrote to the press 6 years ago and said, we have the H1N1. We're going to
Right.
have more viruses. Can we tackle this by building quarantine centers at the airports in Singapore and the checkpoints,
Good
so
idea.
that the illness, the diseases are contained, checked there, and before they are allowed to spread inside the country.
It's a really
Can you
good
imagine,
idea.
Matthew, if every country in the world has this facility, you don't have to close the borders.
Right. Because basically you would be limiting so much more the virus being able to spread outside of the
Yes.
borders of any given country, or even sometimes even a state. Like if someone was traveling state to state, it would
Correct,
prevent them,
correct.
or you know, an area to area. So I love it. It's a fantastic idea. And so your book contains sort of your thoughts process on developing such a procedure and concept.
Yeah. Actually, all this is through many people have asked me this question: caregivers, patients, doctors. You are taking care of your wife, or who is taking care of you?
Oh
Because
yeah.
let me tell you, the honest truth is, when you're taking care of somebody with a serious mental disorder such as schizophrenia, be prepared to walk alone in this journey.
Oh yeah.
You know, she was taking, do you know how much she was taking at her last stage of life over the last 5 years before she died? She was taking a
Sorry.
total of 52 tablets a day,
Oh, that's a lot.
21 tranquilizers alone to manage her schizophrenia. You know, it's really terrible. I mean, I got diabetes and I had to take my diabetic medicines and stuff like that, cholesterol. It's so terrible to take so much medicine, you know.
Yeah.
But all through the power of persuasion, understanding, and you need to know, I think basically caregivers need to know the warning signs, understand a lot, read up a lot, and then slowly, I mean, I've always told patients and caregivers, you need 3 P's to manage mental illness: patience, perseverance, prayer, the power of prayer. I would
Amen to
never
that.
have made it if not for the power of Jesus. Are you a Christian, Matthew?
Well, I'm kind of a complicated bird, and I'll just quickly say this means a lot more to me than most people believe or understand. They think it's an Egyptian relic or of some particular significance, but it actually has only personal significance to me, and it's probably too complicated to mention here, but I will say this is I'm deeply spiritual, very scientific. I'm a big believer in Carl Sagan, and I also agree with you 100%, Raymond, is something that I've been touting for years now, is that mental illness is probably one of the least understood
You are right.
issues that we have, not just like, because of course you're in Singapore, I am in the United States, but some people think, oh yeah, it's not understood here, it's not understood. I said, no, it's the entire earth. And it's just the same way that COVID-19 struck at the entire earth and not just one country or one area or one state or
Right, right.
not at all. It was the entire earth. Is mental illness is something that is not like, oh, well, Germany understands, but United States does not, or Singapore understands, but Kazakhstan, they do not understand. No, mental illness is something that is breaking all of humanity, and it is doing so in ways that you're probably resonating with the things I'm saying too, is that it's breaking the world in ways that are not very simple, where you go, oh look, my tire on my car is flat, I need to fix my tire. this would be a good metaphor to say, imagine a car that's driving and it looks perfectly fine. Everything seems fine. And then suddenly something goes wrong with your car and you're like, what is this? What is it? And then the car works again and it seems perfectly fine. And you never have any real idea unless you went deep, deep, deep into the psyche of people, or in this case, a car, to find out what the true nature of the problem was. And that simply is, to me, how mental illness is just destroying a lot of humanity, and it destroys more than the person who has it, because then it's all the people around. Just like what you just said, is that if your wife was exhibiting these, we'll call them mental demons, if you want to, it affects your life. It affects, say, your sister's life, your mother's life, her cousin's life, her children,
Right.
everybody. So it's not like, oh, sorry for the people who have mental illness, they just have to suffer. It's like, no, it's not like someone who got cancer, since you don't spread cancer to your husband or your wife or
Right.
your
Right.
children. This is more like kind of COVID-19. If I get it, then other people around me are going to be affected by it. Maybe
True.
not
Very
as
true.
much, but certainly a huge amount. So yes, I'm not exactly Christian, but I resonate in so many different ways to not only mental illness, but spirituality and science are my biggest things.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
See, the mental illness is such that if it doesn't hit one generation, it's going to hit the next.
Or
Her
hits all of
mother
them.
and father didn't have mental illness, but her grandmother had mental illness because she lived during the Japanese war, during the Japanese occupation in Singapore.
Yeah.
So, and unfortunately, it's what you rightly pointed out, Matthew. It's the absolute spot on word what you said. It's a misunderstood illness.
For sure.
Really, so the only way is public education. That's one thing. I read a lot about it in my books and stuff like that. I do a lot of advocacy work, and I think in the process, I think I've saved some lives.
I bet you have.
What you need is sometimes. Uh, I see the amount of mental health groups in the UK and the US. There's so many of them, and the young, beautiful girls, mind you. I mean, I just don't believe. They're so attractive and all that, but they have relationship problems. They don't have a job. So stuff like that. I mean, look at it in the Philippines. There's some 3 million people there who have mental illness. 3
Of
million.
course. Yeah.
And the reason is very simple. They don't have jobs. They don't have food to eat. They're hungry. So they've spiraled into all these mental health issues.
Right. If I may
Yeah.
too, to even add to that and sort of interject, is that also, because you mentioned, of course, and it is just one trait that a woman or any man can have, is someone can be beautiful, they can be fantastically good looking, but it's sort of like cancer is, cancer doesn't care if you are old or young or beautiful or short or fat or
Yeah.
rich. It just doesn't matter at all. And this is the sort of thing that people should try to be aware of, because for example, I'll bring up someone I'm aware of, and I don't know his last name. There was this actor in India, and his name was Sushant. Do you know this did you hear about this story?
No.
I don't know the actor's last name. Maybe what I can do is put a link or bring up a photo of him when I edit the video together, so maybe it'll be on the video. But this young man in India, this was very recent too, in the last 6 months, Sushant basically committed suicide. And he was a young actor. He was very loved by the country of India and had a fan base and everything. And everybody wondered, why would he do such a thing? And it was probably because he was suffering.
You mean he committed suicide?
Yeah, and of course, I don't want to go into too many details, of course, on the show here,
Right. Right.
and make it awful, but it's something that people should be aware of, that it is not something that is only in the United States or only in Germany or only in Russia or only in
Right.
Singapore.
Right.
It is literally everywhere. And again, it just doesn't care. The illnesses do not care that you're good looking or that you're rich or that you're powerful or that you have a lot of friends or whatever. It is very much like having cancer, that you could be 2 years old and develop cancer.
Right.
It is what it is, and what we need to do is try to combat it. And I will at least also say this is there are some points in Diamond Dragons where I touch on mental illnesses, believe it or not.
Oh,
Even
is it?
yeah, even though the story revolves pretty much entirely around dragons and there's almost no humans in the story whatsoever, um, people will be surprised. Believe me, they will be more than surprised. Most of the people who have read the screenplay all the way through at this point, which was my vocal cast, they were basically like, I had no idea, Matthew. I had no idea it was going to go this deep. So, we definitely do that. So there you have that.
Actually, since you're on the topic of screenplay, I think you did a screenplay.
I did.
Actually, I want my next goal is to get this book translated into a movie.
I see.
That will be, we had it was a famous, I think John Nash, the brilliant. What's the story? The title of the movie? Beautiful Mind.
Oh
Beautiful
yeah,
Mind,
that's a
remember?
great one, and that had
So actually, I want to do this book. I
Yeah.
want to get this somehow or other. If you have any links or context, just let me know.
Well, I'd be even happy to try to start giving you some help or at least some pointers on that because although I'm not some accomplished Hollywood screenwriter, I've certainly done my best to study screenwriting because my whole life up until this point has been involved in theater, performance, film, live performance, fight scene work, acting, and all these kinds of things. And so in studying all of that, I also studied screenwriting, not only in college, but also more recently, so that I could make sure to write a competent screenplay of Diamond Dragons, so I could at the very least, clue you into some of the processes that go in between the idea of either writing a screenplay outright and converting it into a book, and then the reverse, having a book and then having to collapse it into a screenplay, because of course most movies need to be around, as you know,
Right,
2
right.
hours, maybe 2.5 hours if it was long. But sometimes there's certainly these things that you have to, I don't want to say sacrifice, but it is true that, of course,
Right.
if you have a story that arguably would take 10 hours long, they might say we need to collapse it into 2 hours or make it a 3-part film or something.
Right, right.
But let me ask you some questions here, basically, as we're coming not necessarily to a close, but let's change gears a little. Raymond, what's one of your worst writer's habits that you found throughout the course of writing the book, or throughout all the writing you've done? What would you say is one of your worst?
I think what the worst habit is when you have mental block. I think many writers will face that mental block when you just don't know even how to start a sentence.
Right.
I don't often have it, but I do sometimes when our mind is. Sometimes you just face this problem. You got a mental block, or I may have the reverse.
Mhm.
I may get up in 3 o'clock in the morning in Singapore time. I might get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I start writing because something comes to my mind. So there are two extremes to my worst habits.
What's your best writer's habit that you think, like something that really makes you unique with it?
Okay, I think one of my best habits is that when I'm traveling around in the bus or in MRT and all that, when I spot something that can actually give me a point or a subject to write on, I will straight away write it down. When I come back, I will immediately get onto the computer and there I'm banging away. I mean, you don't have to write the Queen's English. I think you're a writer, just bang away. And then slowly you begin to edit and slowly you begin. There's another point I wanted to mention. A close friend of mine, he started this website to honor the dead. Unfortunately, he died very tragically. There was some relation issues and he died very tragically.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So that incident itself, because he was very supportive of me, he will give me assignments to write for 4 articles a month, and then he would pay me 200 Singapore dollars.
Mhm.
He was very supportive of me, and he was very passionate about mental illness. In fact, when he saw my books, he liked my books. He told me, Raymond, let's do a book together.
Oh.
Let's write about all the people who have made a difference in the world. It can be. So I gave him a couple of names. I mean, I gave some Indian celebrity actor, Shakul Khan, Muhammad Ali. the boxer, uh,
One of my personal heroes.
many celebrities, people who made a difference. But you also have unsung heroes.
Of
A
course.
Thai woman, the elderly woman, 90 over years, that cooks and doesn't sell it at a full rate, but sell it at a very cheap rate, so she feeds the poor. These are unsung heroes.
That's a
That
good name for a
people
book.
don't know
I mean, you
about.
should just call it Unsung Heroes, right?
Yes, yes. So people, I mean, I've always had a lot of respect for people. I think there was a 5-year-old boy or something I just read recently who was helping to raise money for the poor. I mean, I'm writing about all these things. I thought this would be wonderful to write about. But
Heroism is not bound by age. I can definitely tell you that from all the different people that I've met in my life. It's definitely not bound by age, for certain. For certain. Let
yeah,
me ask
you're right.
you another question then too. So, what's the worst advice you've ever been given, maybe with your writing?
To rush into too many books at one time. You're motivated when your book sells. Hey, I don't produce big quantities because I'm not no longer working. So I'm
Mhm.
depending on my small niche of writers. I produce 30 to 40 copies of a book. At one time I was able to sell in churches, but now they don't allow. So I produce small quantities. But I'm so motivated when people buy my books. And some of them tell me, hey, Raymond, your book is very nice. When is your next book coming up? So I sometimes tend to rush into making more books, you see. Like
Right.
this year alone, I did 10 books. But my
That's
books normally run into, it's not like yours, it goes into 400 pages. Mine is about 100 to 120 pages.
That's okay. Yeah. I mean, I also feel that it's not about the quantity, and that's something else that I can tell you about when it comes
More
to.
of the quality.
Yeah, well, and also it's like something we talk about with the screenwriting, and I'll only just say this really quick because I want to focus on you, of course, is that um, you use as many words and as many characters, and that goes for both the characters on a keyboard and characters like a character in a film or a story, as you need, and no more, but also no less. So, for example, if someone's like, why is this story so long? Da, 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 you said because it takes exactly that much to tell it, to make sure that it's
Right.
correct. Now, if someone said, but did you check to see if you can edit it down? Hopefully you have, because that's important. If you've edited your story to the point where finally you're like, this is it. If I cut anything more from this story, it will break the story and everything will fall.
Right.
But simultaneously, you don't want to cut too much, like I just said, because then it breaks it and it's awful. So then you have the opposite problem in the other end, is if you've done way too much and it confuses people, and whether your readers or your moviegoers are confused, you want to tell a competent story. So I always say, look, if your book's long, if it's short, if it's medium, who cares, as long as you really put the time in and you said,
Right.
this is it. This is exactly the amount of words I needed to tell the story. No more and no less. And speaking of no more, no less, so one final question. Who's the next diamond in the rough, Raymond? Obviously, you've been so generous to, come on the show and do this from all the way from Singapore. So, huge thanks to you for that. But who would you recommend maybe to come on the show?
I'm actually looking around, and as I told you that I may need somebody who's very much into the power of love,
Oh,
and who writes stories that uplift people.
yeah,
I did have a word with him,
that's great.
and he said when the right timing is right, yes, you can link me up with Matthew.
Yeah.
But having said that, Matthew,
Mhm.
that doesn't stop there, because that's why once you show me this video, I can send it out to people and say, hey, look at this guy, this Diamond Dragon Matthew. He's fantastic. I think he's a master of all trades. He's an actor, he's a screenwriter, he's what have you, and let's expand on that.
Right.
Let's give him more platforms. You told me you got 6 other people already being interviewed, right? You interviewed
Well, I'm humbled by that. Thank you, Raymond. And I want to iterate this out there, or reiterate it in some cases, because people have said these things. Is I'm just another artist out there, just like yourself and a good, hundreds of thousands of others. But it's true that I'd say what is most important in life are two major things. Is we only have so many years on this earth to do whatever it is that we want to do, and that we think that we were meant to do, or that we desire to do. And so basically I tell people, I suggest you get going. You start working on those things. And
that's right.
Is basically leaving something behind that's bigger than just yourself.
Leaving a legacy.
Yeah, well, almost not quite that. Like, I like that word, but what I like better than the word legacy, because that always sounds like it's, oh yes, the legacy of myself and I'm so wonderful. It's more like a legacy that people will look back and they'll be like, huh, yeah, this guy, he did this.
I remember him, yeah.
And it changed my life. Sort of like this 90-year-old woman that you said, who basically just cooked food and got overlooked in some ways because, of course, it wasn't a book or a movie or a whatever.
Right.
She still made a huge difference. So to me, that is a legacy in and of itself, right? So it's not what you have, it's what you do with what you have that counts. And we all definitely have different skills and abilities and gifts that we have either been given or we've developed, or a mixture. And it's important that we treasure the time that we have, because as you are aware, it can be cut short. In other words, some people say, oh, I'm gonna live until I'm 70. I have plenty, don't worry, I have plenty of time. I'll do that when I'm old. I do that when I'm older. I'm like, you don't.
Yeah, procrastinating.
You might get sick. You don't know. You might get hit.
That's right.
You might as well do whatever it is you're gonna do as soon as you can do it, and keep using the hours in your day to learn those things, because tomorrow may never come.
You're right. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is this, that I actually may want to talk to my friend who's my book printer, the boss, and he does a lot of charity work. Have you heard of the Siew Foundation? Have you heard of the Siew Foundation, the Buddhist charity, the Siew Foundation?
I have not heard of it, but that sounds fantastic. We should.
It is a fantastic organization, and Matthew, it was started by a nun.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Started by a nun in Taiwan. I wrote about it.
Oh, good.
And this nun,
you got lots of stories.
Why she decided to set up this foundation. When she was young, she went to a hospital and she saw blood dripping all over to the corridor, and she investigated. It was found that this lady who was about to give birth didn't have money for the delivery.
Wow.
So she decided to start the foundation, and people laughed at her. I mean, this is the sometimes the mentality. You get discouraged when people try to. I think Oprah Winfrey said is very good. What she said: surround yourself with people who can lift you higher.
It's important. It definitely is.
So, I mean, this is a very good foundation, and the wife has been doing this charity work for about more than 15 years. So what they do is they go, you look in Taiwan, for example, they do not segregate the mentally ill. They give them work to do. They put things in recycle bins and all that. And to reward them, they give them a meal. And their mind is working, because when you work, an idle mind is a devil's workshop. So you have something to do. You become very meaningful in life. You have value, and you contribute to society.
I agree 100%. Well, Raymond, it has been a great pleasure, and thanks so much, Raymond. Again, I'm Matthew, author and creator of Diamond Dragons. If you're interested in learning more, go ahead and visit the links in the description in the video.
Thanks, Matthew. I sent you a friend request, so you can add me on your friend request, Facebook.
Oh, wonderful. I appreciate it. It'll be great. Well, great.
Thanks, Matthew. Nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you.
We'll keep in touch. Do send me the video when it's ready.
You know I will, Raymond. Thanks so much. And again, we'll see you guys next time on Diamond Discussions. Thanks for watching. Would you like to be a guest on the show, or do you know a diamond in the rough who should? Contact us, diamonddragonstale@gmail.com. Until then, Chion, Chifoy, Boss Rez, and Yayla Ha.